purify the aura. But this has now to be done as a group, and this group constitutes one of the first of the exoteric groups with which it is intended to work in the New Age. Through the activity of such groups, the world glamour will be dissipated, but first of all the aspirant must learn to deal with individual and group glamour. It is necessary to remember the following three things. I am going to be brief and technical in teaching this group, for my time is short and you have an adequate technical knowledge with which to understand that whereof I speak. First, the united auras of the group members ever determine the group condition, the group activity, usefulness, problem and glamour. Hence emerges individual group responsibility, and individual usefulness. Each of you either hinders or aids the group, according to his auric condition, which is either in the state of glamour or illusion or is kept relatively free from these conditions. Second, that the first job that each of you has to do is to determine his own peculiar problem. In giving you your individual instructions, I will take up with you in this instruction where the particular tendency in this direction of each of you lies, and whether it is glamour, illusion or maya to which you habitually succumb. I will deal with directness, for I have tested your sincerity and believe in your willingness to be told the truth. Once you have each determined the specific nature of your peculiar problem, you can then work with deliberation towards its solution with deliberation, brother of old, and with no speed, but with due care and caution and with right understanding. Thirdly, you must remember that as I look at the individual in any of these groups, I can at the same time gauge the quality of the group itself as a whole. The amount of inner light that can shine through and make its presence felt in your auras can be seen by me and indicate to me the strength, and the efficiency and also the potency of your individual group influence, for the positive auras subordinate the negative auras. What is required is a combination of positive auras, deliberately subordinated to group work. As you deal with illusion and as you free your minds from its effects, and as you dissipate the astral glamour in which you are all more or less immersed, you will enter into a greater freedom of living and usefulness. As the maya of distorted energy currents ceases to swing you into lines of undesirable activity, the light that is in you will shine forth with greater clarity. Incidentally, the dweller on the threshold will slowly and surely disintegrate and leave your way to the door of initiation, free and unimpeded. Strongly mental types are subject to illusion. This illusion is in reality a condition wherein the aspirant is being definitely controlled by 1. A thought form of such potency that it does two things. A. Controls the life activity or output. B. Tunes the aspirant in on the mass thought forms, which are of a similar nature, and which are built by others under the dominance of a similar illusion. This, in its worst aspect, produces mental insanity, or idée fixe, but in its least dangerous and normal result produces the fanatic. The fanatic is usually, even if he realizes it, not a bewildered man, who has a potent idea of some kind or another, but who finds it quite impossible to integrate it into the world picture. To make those needed, and often divinely directed, compromises which profoundly help humanity. To find the time or place for the realities, which are within his natural grasp. 2. When the man is highly developed, the mental illusion is built around a definite intuition, and this intuition is concretized by the mind until its appearance is so real that the man believes he sees so clearly that which should be done or given to the world that he spends his time endeavoring in a fanatical manner to make others see it too. Thus his life slips away on the wings of illusion, and his incarnation is a relatively profitless one. In the fewer cases, this combination of intuition and mental activity produces the genius in some field or another. But then there is no illusion, but clear thinking, coupled with the trained equipment in that particular field or enterprise. 3. The weaker and more average mental types of people succumb to the general field of illusion, and of mass illusion. The mental plane manifests a different sort of distortion to that of the astral plane, or the etheric. The faculty of discrimination which is being developed has produced sharper lines of demarcation, and instead of the dense fogs and mists of the astral plane or the swirling tides and currents of energy of the etheric plane, we have on the mental plane masses of sharply indicated thought forms of a particular quality and note and tone, around which are grouped lesser thought forms, created by those who respond to these forms, and to their note, quality and tone. Similarities are then seen to exist which constitute channels, or avenues for the magnetic drawing power of the more potent thought forms. Ancient theologies in modern garb, fixed presentations of half-truth, the wild thinking of various world groups, and many similar emanating sources have down the ages produced the world of illusion and those mental states which have held humanity prisoner to wrong concepts and thoughts. So many are these thought-producing illusions that the effect in the world today has been to cause a general division of the human race into varying schools of thought, philosophy, science, religion, sociology, etc., into many parties and groups, all of them colored by an analogous idea, into groups of idealists fighting each other on behalf of their pet concepts, and into tens of thousands of participants in group mental activity. These are today producing the world literature, through which the world platforms are colored. By their means the world leaders are inspired, and they are responsible at this time for the massive experiments in the field of government, of education, and of religion which are producing so much of the world unrest, and consequently so much of the world illusion. What is needed therefore at this time, are thinkers who are training themselves in that mental attitude, and one-pointedness which is divorced from the danger of a negative receptivity and is responsive, at the same time, to the higher intuitional inspiration. It is mediating interpreters of ideas, that are needed and not mediums. The emotional types respond with facility to world glamour, and to their own individual inherited, and self-induced glamour. The bulk of the people are purely emotional with occasional flashes of real mental understanding, very occasional, my brother, and usually entirely absent. Glamour has been likened to a mist, or fog in which the aspirant wanders and which distorts all that he sees and contacts, preventing him from ever seeing life truly, or clearly, or the conditions surrounding him as they essentially are. When he is a somewhat advanced aspirant, he is aware of the glamour and occasionally sees in a flash in what direction truth for him may lie. But then again the glamour settles down upon him and he is rendered powerless to release himself or to do anything constructive. His problem becomes further complicated by his consequent distress, and his deep disgust with himself. He walks ever in the fog, and sees not as it truly exists. He is deceived by the appearance, and forgets that which the appearance veils. The emanatory astral reactions which each human being initiates ever surround him, and through this mist and fog he looks out upon a distorted world. These reactions and the surrounding aura which they constitute blend and merge with the world glamour and fog and form part of the miasmas and unhealthy emanations for which the masses of men, for millions of years, are responsible. I would point out to you that, in Lemurian days, glamour and illusion were relatively unknown from the human standpoint. There were no mental reactions, and but little emotional response to environment. Men were largely instinctual animals. Glamour began to be found in Atlantean days, and since that time has steadily precipitated, until today when the hierarchy looks at humanity it appears to be walking in the deep, and constantly changing density of currents which hide and distort, and which swirl around the sons of men and prevent their seeing the light as it is. This is all the more obvious, when it is remembered that the other kingdoms of nature are relatively free from glamour and illusion. In our race, the Aryan, the world illusion, is gathering weight and slowly emerging into recognition in the human consciousness, and this is a real point gained, for that which is recognized can then be intelligently handled, if the will to do so exists. Today illusion is so potent, that few people whose minds are in any way developed but are controlled by these vast illusory thought forms, which have their roots and draw their life from the lower personality life and desire nature of the masses of men. It is interesting to remember also in connection with our Aryan race, that these thought forms draw their vitality also from the realm of ideas, but of ideas wrongly intuited and grasped and forced to serve the selfish purposes of men. Their forms have been brought into activity by the steadily growing creative power of mankind, and have been subordinated to the wishes of men, through the use of language with its power to limit and distort. The illusion is also precipitated more potently than would otherwise be the case by the effort of many devoted idealistic men, to impose these distorted thought forms upon the mental bodies of the masses. This constitutes one of the major problems with which the hierarchy today has to concern itself. It is also one of the first factors, which a master has to consider in connection with any aspirant and disciple. Glamour, as we have seen, is of more ancient standing, and of earlier emergence than is illusion. It has little in it of the mental quality, and is the major factor controlling the majority. The objective of all training given on the path of discipleship, and up to the third initiation, is to induce that clear thinking which will render the disciple free from illusion and give to him that emotional stability and poise which gives no room for the entrance of any of the world glamour. This freedom becomes possible when there is in the aspirant no personal glamour, and no deliberately self-induced response to the determining factors which have produced glamour down the ages. With these factors we will later deal. Maya is the result of both glamour and illusion. It connotes, when present, an integrated personality and therefore the capacity to tune in on mental illusion and astral glamour. Where this condition is found, the problem of the disciple is one of the greatest in the world. What constitutes the prime difficulty of any disciple is the fact that the battleground of his life involves every aspect of his nature. The whole man is involved. Technically, the word Maya should only be used in two cases. 1. In reference to the united glamour illusion to which a man, who is an integrated personality, responds. 2. In speaking of the limitations of the planetary logos of our planet. In the above remarks I have given you much food for thought, not only as regards your own personal problems, for all of you are subject to these conditions, but I have also indicated to you what is the nature of glamour. The word is used in all esoteric books and teaching to cover the conditions which are differentiated under the words Maya, illusion and glamour itself. Later I will give you some teaching upon the causes of glamour, and the methods of its dissipation. But I have given you here enough for the present, for it is my desire that you ponder upon these ideas during the next few months and learn somewhat of the significance of these words which you so lightly use. Watch yourselves and your daily life with discrimination, so that you learn to distinguish between glamour, illusion and Maya. See whether you can discover the form which your individual dweller upon the threshold is likely to assume as